The issue of skills gap has become a growing problem in Nigeria. Employers say that young people do not have the required skills to get them a job. It is believed that the educational system has failed these young people by not preparing them for the workplace. Hi, my name is Kelvin. Welcome to the first edition of Ready for Work. Today, we'll be discussing skills gap and the role of education. I have with me two very interesting guests who will be discussing this topic and educating us about the challenges and perhaps solutions about skills gap. To my right, I have Osarama Akenzwa, and to my left, I have Ruth Imade David. I will let them introduce themselves and the floor will be open.
Ladies first.
Oh sure, ladies first.
Okay. So my name is Ruth. I'm faculty coordinator at Wave Academies, and I also lead the competency over credentials movement.
And then I also lead the part of Wave that works with organizations to help them improve their talent through training and other interventions, and also just basically maximize the performance of their employees generally.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. So we'll start off with skills gap. Like I earlier mentioned, there's been a huge challenge um, in Nigeria, particularly, and West Africa and Africa in general, with skills gap. Why young people are not getting jobs? Why is there unemployment in general? And then the issue of unemployability. We have noticed that employers tell us, or employers say that young people are not employable, and it boils down to the fact that they don't have the required skills to get them this job. So I want to also talk about, first of all, let us know what is skills gap and how does it affect us as a society, and who is the most affected of this. So I'll let Ruth, you lead the competency over credential movement. What is skills gap?
Okay, just in very, very simple terms, skills gap is the skills that are readily available in the market, which is different from the skills that employers are looking for.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, do you have any definition of skills gap?
Well, no, nothing too different from what Ruth has already shared.
Okay. So why is there a skills gap, in the market, like as Ruth has just pointed out? Why does it exist?
Well, I think that we haven't really evolved in the content of what our educational system has with the trends in the employment space. So people have, I mean, skills have evolved, needs of people who hire have also evolved, but I'm not too sure that our what's being taught in schools, whether at primary, secondary, or tertiary level, has also evolved at the same pace. So there hasn't been that corresponding evolution with the curriculum in the educational system and the needs in the workplace or the business space. So,
Okay. So you mentioned a very valid point about the lack of involvement of the curriculum. So our curriculum is somewhat outdated, if you may. Ruth, why do you think, to Sarama's point, why do you think that our curriculum has not been updated, and who is responsible for that? And how do we begin to create awareness, or how do we begin to um, hold these people accountable to updating the curriculum so that it meets the needs of people who hire?
Thank you very much, Kelvin. I'm not exactly sure that it would be safe to say that our curriculum is outdated. I would rather say that our curriculum is up to date, but the challenge is the pedagogy, in the sense that the people who deliver the curriculum, right? How are they delivering the curriculum? For example, I think sometime last month I was having a conversation with someone about um, the new topics that they just added to the curriculum. For example, in secondary school, entrepreneurship skills, and even entrepreneurship skills are in the university's curriculum. But how many of our graduates are entrepreneurial? Right? So I'm not sure that it is the lack of, though yes, the curriculum is supposed to be up to date. It's supposed to move in tangent with
The
what is
needs.
happening in the
Yes.
industry, the needs of the employer, as I
Yes,
said,
yes.
so that employers go into, if they go into the workforce, they're able to find the skills that they need. But it is the delivery
Okay.
of what is in the curriculum
Right.
that is the challenge. How do we deliver them? How do we screen for how do we screen for those skills or assess for those skills? If we continue with our what do you call this, objective,
Yeah.
they give you exams and how much have you been able to inculcate what you've learned. If we continue with leaving it just to objective A to B, or this way of question they call German, German questions.
Yes.
How do you bring something, uplift from the textbook and then impute into your answer sheet? If
Yes.
you continue that way, then I'm not sure that we'll be able to equip our young people who make up the labor force with the skills that the employers are looking for. So basically, I'm not sure that it's with the curriculum entirely, though yes, there are things we need to add to the curriculum, but it's largely on the pedagogy.
Okay, and by that you mean the delivery of
the content
of the content. Okay. Do you have any sort of experience with this issue, and do you mind sharing anyone with us?
Well, I won't be mentioning names.
That's fine. That's fine. Please don't mention names.
So recently I had an experience with a professional body, in fact. So let's move away from secondary school or university. It's everybody would say they had one experience or another in university. But again, professional bodies are supposed to be ahead of the curve in this kind of situation. So I did take some professional exam, and the way the test was, or the questions were, designed.
Yes.
They were designed in a way to test you on what you have studied in the textbook, and not how I currently carry out my daily activity as a member of that professional body.
Right.
Right? And I felt like, so the exam was done, just pick random object, what do you call them? A, B, C, D. Multiple choice questions, just pick them and then submit the papers and go. I would have thought that for me to be able to prove to the body that I am a professional, some of my day-to-day activities I should have been able to express them as a professional. I should have been able to maybe write a project, all right, maybe design a project. But those set of knowledge were not tested. It's easier to do multiple choice.
Yes.
And so we just go by that. And if we continue this way, I'm not sure that we are going to be building talent, all right, or skills. We are just going to be building people who are professionals, in quotes, and people who are educated.
Okay.
And then we come back to the same table to say, oh, this person is educated, but they cannot do what their certificate says that they can do.
Yes. So, so would it be fair to say that there is theoretical knowledge and there's practical knowledge, and there seems to be a gap between those two?
Yeah, absolutely.
From what you said.
Absolutely, absolutely. There is a theoretical knowledge and then there's practical knowledge. Most of the time, people who seem to be high flyers, right, are people who have gone outside of the university or outside of the education system,
right,
to get that knowledge on their own. So if you see people who know how to defend what they studied, what they have studied, they have honed those skills from informal routes or pathways. People who have gone to do volunteering, for example,
right,
or holiday work, for example, or freelance jobs.
Yes.
Right? So those are the ways that they have honed those skills. The school itself, all right, or the education institution or the education system has not baked that into the curriculum. Oh yeah, again I'll say that they baked it into the curriculum,
right.
But again, how do they test for it? How do they teach it? How do they make students express it?
Yes.
So it's not just enough to teach and for students to regurgitate. It's also for you to teach, for students to assimilate, be able to throw back, ask questions until they are able to internalize those things that they've learned.
Thank you, Ruth. Oh, sorry, man. So Ruth has made some very valid points around the curriculum being updated, but there's no delivery on it. Who is responsible for delivering the content in the curriculum, and what is stopping us from achieving that?
Well, thanks, Kelvin. I'll say that we still have a lot of updating to do, to be honest, in the curriculum, because I agree with Ruth to a large extent. However, I think that when you think about things like emotional intelligence, social awareness, social skills, a lot of the schools curriculum these days don't really integrate these things. So you see people who finish from school and they don't have social skills. They can't network. They don't know how to build their social capital. So and you see people who are not even self-aware enough. So people have gone through the educational system 66334 as we have it, and really don't even know who they are. So I think there still needs to be a lot more added to it, and I think that it's also there's so many people involved. There's a responsibility of the educators, so people who own schools. It's also the responsibility of government, because I think government plays a huge part in designing policies and enforcing policies. So if you look at legislation, you look at what are the legislations that govern education, right? State level, at all levels of government, and what are those people what professional bodies responsible for regulating the sort of content that's being delivered in our schools, right?
Yes.
Do we have some sort of uniformity across board? So whether it's at primary school level, secondary or tertiary school level, do we have a body that enforces and regulates the content? And I think that even if we don't have, it's time to start thinking about having a body that's responsible for doing that. And that body obviously would have a lot of the stakeholders involved. So you have people who are employers, because they are going to absorb these people. You have people who are part of the government, because they're going to enforce policies around these things. You have educators as well, who are saying, look, how do we design content and deliver? Just like Ruth was saying, the delivery is also a crucial part. So you have people from schools, whether they're teachers, head teachers, or other people who are responsible for this, being part of that body, so that everyone brings their ideas to the table, everyone brings some level of creativity, and then that body is central enough to be able to ensure that what we are delivering and teaching people, really aligns with what the needs are in the 21st century.
Fantastic. So I'm thinking from a general perspective. You've talked about having this board. Why should I? What are the incentives, so to speak, that the government has put in place for each of these stakeholders, or what is at stake for each of these stakeholders to be on that board? So as an employer, why should I? What would I gain from being on the board? As an educator, what would I gain, or what is at stake?
I think we're used to having incentives or rewards that are almost tangible. Okay, so if not monetary, but some to some level, things that are tangible. But I think if educators look at it, think about your schools and the performance of people who finish from your school. So you have students who've come through your school, and years into the future they're doing exceptionally well in different areas, and they're also contributing to the economy of their community. So I think that's a way they could look at it. For government, government shouldn't really just look at it as, yeah, what's, how much are we going to make, or what. Government's role essentially is to be able to create an environment that enables people to thrive. And so as a government, what is the productivity level, or what's the productivity ratio for you when you have people who are getting the right skills, getting them into the right jobs, or getting them to even create jobs? Okay, so I think indirectly it has a ripple effect on the government, and then even for other people who are involved, whether it's the students themselves, or people who go to school. If we design this sort of thing, or this sort of solution, then it helps people just do better. It helps build a healthier society, I think, in the end. And then it helps just increase the productivity level of each person, within a community or within the country. So I think it has immense benefits that may not be very tangible at first,
Yes.
but have very long-term and far-reaching effects positively.
So if I may just add to what Osarame has said, because we live in a society where people always want to see the tangibles, right? So maybe it will help for us to help them see what the tangibles are. For example, as an employer,
Yes.
what is the need for you? There are a lot of banks today that have different academies where they spend millions of naira to upskill the new entrants.
Which I would think that it's an indictment on the education system.
Oh yeah, it is. To be honest, it is.
Yes.
Right, but it is just easier in this country, in the context of Nigeria now,
Yes.
for you to do things yourself because you are sure of the quality. But in other words, or flipping the coin, or in whatever, someone is paying for it. So the cost of retraining someone who has gone to the university for 4 years, for 5 years, or whatever amount of years spent in university, the cost is going to the customer. Imagine if we don't have to incur that cost, right? The banks will make more money.
Yeah.
Everyone who banks, who is banking, who has a bank account in this country, runs their bank account at a very cheap rate, right?
Okay.
So it has a ripple effect. Tangibles now, we can say.
Yes.
That's for the employers of labor. Second benefit for an employer is that you have a healthy pool of talent. Anytime you want to hire, you can hire afresh. The only thing you can hire fresh graduate from the market who have at least the minimum qualification.
Basic level.
Emotional intelligence, problem solving, time management, the soft skills that you would think that anybody should have, they have it. Then the only thing you need to do as an employer is to onboard them into your own organizational culture.
Yes.
The specific way that you do things.
Okay.
Either technical or non-technical, as the case may be. Then for the government, it's return on investment. Right now there's a lot of capital flights with people who want to travel out of this country. That's the truth. At least for people who want to travel out of this country, minimum payment for Canada to get to Canada, it's about maybe 700,000 naira. Capital flight is going. Let's not even talk about the intellectual resource that is injecting every single day in this country. There's a return on investment. Imagine that money not going anywhere and staying in this country, and people are doing businesses, entrepreneurs are thriving, right? They have the skills to do business. They have the skill to run the business.
So, Sarame, you were talking about universities and why they need to be big on data so that it becomes a selling point for them and makes them more competitive in the market. So, do you mind finishing your thoughts?
Absolutely. So I'd mentioned that competition was a very important thing. I'd also mentioned that they needed to start thinking around what their unique selling point was going to be going forward in terms of what offerings do they have for students who come to their schools. I think in other times you find that there are universities that have affiliations with some employers, some organizations, big companies, and then tell you that if you attend a university, you have access to some of these employers, you get internship opportunities. Ruth had mentioned earlier volunteering, so all these other extra opportunities that help build, their students, um, you know, to become whole people, so to speak, are some of the things that, would then get them thinking about, just tracking their data, and then also at every point where, people are trying to apply or make decisions around where they should go to school, they can also put that out there and attract people. I also just want to say that we're talking a lot about university as well, but we have to be mindful of the numbers and the statistics in terms of how many people in Africa would actually go to university. So I think that as much as we're focusing on universities, a lot of the things that we're talking about could also be applied even at secondary school level.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, of course. I'm big on this stuff. So I think also, Osarima had earlier mentioned about common entrance in those days when you want to get people, advertise for your school to get people to bring their children or their wards to your school. You want to say, oh, come to my school, you prepare them for common entrance, 60% common entrance success rate. The same also for secondary schools. And it's almost seen as though that the secondary schools are only built to prepare young people for the university. So they tell you, oh, 60% or 70% JAM success rate or WAEC success rate. It almost looks like that is the be-all and all of a secondary school. That is their only value proposition. I'm not exactly very sure that the value proposition of a secondary school is to prepare you for any job opportunities. And it's funny because only 10%, like you said, just to put some data around it, or numbers around it, only 10% of those who finish from secondary school get into university, right? So 90% of those in secondary school don't get into university, at least in the first year.
Yeah.
Right? And due to sometimes success rate of their exams or even financial constraints. And I started to think about why we are still stuck up on young people not getting a job. Why is secondary school still preparing their students for exam success rate? Why are we not preparing them for employment? Because if they don't go to school, then they won't work. They should be able to work. Because that in itself is also a form of education. Work is a form of education.
Yeah.
Right? So why are we not preparing them to work? But it's a conversation that is ongoing, and that's why we are having this platform to be able to make people see, especially secondary school educators, how can we begin to help you see that part of your job to be done or your value proposition is people who finish from my secondary school are employable. What about that? But again, another constraint are parents. Parents do not want their kids who just finished secondary school to go to work. They want them to go to school. All right? And I'm also almost tempted for the reason why parents actually want their kids to go to school.
So for the parents part, I'd like us to hold on that. The next time we'll be meeting, we'll be discussing parental influence on our wards and how big it is or how big their role is in helping these young kids or these job seekers gain employment. Because I know that a lot of our parents have played a huge role, whether it's negative, whether it's positive, but it has been some parental influence in helping.
That would be interesting. I must be on that topic.
Yeah, you will definitely be on that topic.
Right.
So, I mean, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was going back to Osarima's point around the role of employers, right? What else can they do in this entire conversation? I think what employers, but because I think that employers are the key here. So there's another that says that the person who blows the piper dictates the tune.
Sure, yes.
In this particular scenario, within the educator, the government, and the employers of labor, I think the key people here are the employers of labor. They are the ones who bring the money. They are the ones who make the money. If they don't make money, government will not. they will not survive.
So to speak.
If they don't, make money, if the business don't make money, people will not really find a need to almost get a university education. Otherwise, to what end? Right? So I think that the employers have so much power that if they are able to, if they are able to harness that strength, they will do a lot in terms of making an impact in closing the skills gap. How? If employers force the hand of educators to say, you know what, we are not going to hire anybody from some certain universities.
Yes.
No matter how big you are, until you begin to teach these skills that we spend extra money to teach in our organization. We will not hire from your university if you don't comply with X, Y, Z. Right? We will not hire from you if we are not part of the board if you are not part of the board that dictates what happens in the curriculum. So employers have a key role to play in all this. Employers can force the hand of government to say, part of making or building a business environment, all right, that would help our business thrive is for you to help us build talent that can sustain our business. Because people say, and I believe, that people are the blood of every business.
Thank you so much, Ruth and Osarame. I'm going to leave us with one final question each. Osarame, if you were the education minister, what is the one thing that you would change or add or subtract as in that role?
Add to
what would you bring? What is the one thing you would bring to the table if you were the education minister?
If I was the education minister, that's
one thing, Osarame.
Wow. You see, there's so many sides to it, Kelvin. So I think for me, because I've had the opportunity to engage both teachers on a project we worked with, and then also both people who've been on the receiving end, students. I think I will address the teacher orientation.
Teacher orientation. Thank
Yes.
you, Osarame. Ruth, if you were the education minister, what is the one thing that you would bring to the table?
How assessments are done. How do we assess knowledge?
How do we assess knowledge? Thank you so much, guys. On that very exciting note, thank you so much for listening to our viewers. Next week, we'll be focusing on policymakers and their role in the skills gap issue. I will have Ruth and Osarame once again. Thank you for listening. My name is Kelvin. Peace out.